But when you get to a certain point and you've done the thing, and you also recalibrated what success means to you along the way, and today, if you ask yourself in the mirror the question, am I successful? It probably is a little bit different. It certainly is for me.
Morning.
Good morning. Alex, I want to know, and I want to talk about today, what you're finally getting around to accomplish in 2025. We're both human. We've dropped the ball. We've said we were going to do things, and maybe we didn't act on them the way we should have. I'm going to raise my hand too. Hopefully everybody watching today is going to raise their hand, but also more importantly, pick up their nuggets that we're dropping to really improve their life, because I'm disappointed there's no flying cars, but 2025 is here. What you say?
I think the robo-taxi will be here in 2025, so he's going to deliver on that. I don't know about the Omnibots. We'll see if he delivers the Omnibots in 2025. Flying cars, I'm going to give him a pass in 2025.
So what are the high level, because we're going to dive in deep again. I want this to be a conversation where hopefully people that are watching and listening are going to say, you know what, yeah, it's my time for that. And I think before we hit record on this, we said that you and I have, and I'm going to guess a lot of people, we always carry these ideas that we know we should be acting on. They make total sense to us. We agree with it, but for whatever reason, whether under our control or not, and I like to air that most things are under our control, and our responsibility, and what happens to us is because of us and the decisions we make. But that aside, let's dive into those things that you think you're really, truly committed to in 2025.
We mentioned a word in there. I think maybe we'll get a little bit later into some metaphysics around things, or thoughts around words and intentions. I am using the word should less. And why is that should has this, like one of my early mentors said, stop shoulding all over yourself and stop shoulding all over other people. When you should on other people, that's a judgment. So let me just make that about me right now. It's like, what are the things that I want? How do I want my life? What do I want my life to look like? So that's, what do I want my life to look like? And then it's more of, what are the decisions that I want to make to manifest and create that world that I want, my life that I want. So, and then it kind of comes down to like decisions, right? Like, for instance, I made a decision 5 years ago to, and I still say it, that I'll drink again. It's kind of like that. And I didn't go to AA or anything like that, just as a side, because I've had a tough time when I'm like, I'm quitting this or I'm quitting that and I'm never going to again. It's a lot of pressure. So it's like, and I get that one day at a time thing. And again, I wasn't ruining my life. I was just making not great decisions when I drank. And then the day or so after, when I felt like crap, irritable, mildly depressed, just making bad decisions after the fact. So I was like, okay, if I want to be quasi-retired by the time I'm 50, what are some decisions that I could make, some things that I could add, and some things that I could let go of? And alcohol was one of them. So I was like, I'm just going to give it a break. And there wasn't as much pressure, Eddie. So just as an example, right? So I think for me, it comes down to decisions. And then it's like, what are the really, really important things, right? My family, my daughter is absolutely paramount. My daughter has special needs. She's not going to be out, once it's like she turns 18, your beautiful daughters who've done so well as a result of, you being a great dad and you went through your stuff. But, you always put them, sounds like from all the conversations we've had, you put them first. And were led by example and asked them questions and didn't like should on them, So my daughter's at the top. So it's like all the decisions that I make, whether it's to buy property in another country, what I'm investing in, what I'm putting into my body so that I can be around for her later. These are all like decisions, right? So a lot of it, the framework of the decisions that I make are like, what are the collateral effects that they'll have on Catalina, right? So for me, like, it's health. It is creating a multiple businesses that I already have. Like, I got the team. I have revenue share with EXP, which also brings in stock. And maybe I'll talk about a little, decision that I made and, about the stock that I had. What other kind of cryptos do I want to buy, or other investments that I want to make? All kind of like premises around Catalina in that regard, what the legacy is for her. And then it's like health. Okay, like, do I want to be around to enjoy the fruits of the decisions that I'm making financially right now? And so it's like, why do I cold plunge? Why do I sit in front of the red light? Why do I do breath work? Why am I, drinking water rather than, a monster? Um, it's just kind of just all these decisions, Eddie. And so I just really, for 2025, to kind of bundle this up, just making really good, calculated, thoughtful decisions, making good decisions for 2025 that'll grow the multiple business that I have. So I'll kind of step off of that, but just as a overarching thing of no should, of like want, what do I want my life to look like? And so making decisions that I'm like, I want to make this decision. I was dreading going into the cold plunge this morning because it was like cold outside. I went for a long walk. I get up at 5:30. I was a little tired because of our party this weekend, just got off my sleep schedule, but I still get up at 5:30 because as, one of my friends, our friend Reed actually was like, every night can be Saturday as long as the next day is Monday. And not that I go out and go crazy, but if I go to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning, it whacks me out, man. And I'm not drinking or anything, but it just whacks my schedule. So that's kind of it in a nutshell for me, pal.
Can I ask you a follow-up question to that? So I hear you and in the decision making and I'm going to do this. Can you touch on what has clouded your ability to do this sooner as you reflect back? What of that you think, or was it entirely up to you? You just didn't pull the trigger and make the decision before. Were there any elements of business or personal that actually, anything you mind sharing, that layered a cloud of slowing you down and not acting as quickly?
I think it's a refinement. So I don't look back on any of my life and have any regrets around it because I really love where I am right now. So all of those decisions, whether they were stupid or uncalculated or whatever, brought me here. So, but if I was to say, which I had a really, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but when I went down to Peru again, it's like ego. It's ego. And that's a big conversation, but it's just ego. It's I'm right. Um, comfort of I have a drink every night at this time, or I got to go out on Friday and do this, or comfort of like I need monsters so that I'm jacked up and ready to go, and it just becomes these habits, and we get habitually attached to things. Buddha's three noble truths. Life is suffering; it's inevitable. It's optional. The second noble truth is everything will change. And then the last one is, so don't get attached. So it's kind of a formula, right? So life, there's inevitably going to be suffering, whether it's ourselves and or others. Everything's going to change. It's the only constant.
Yeah, what I take,
So don't get attached.
what I take, and I'm sorry, what I take from that real quick is that you don't look back on it with regret. It's just all part of the building blocks of where you are now, and that's how I see things as well. So that's what I picked up on what you just said. It's not like, oh man, I've picked up some baggage and I've got to carry this heavy bag with me moving forward. I'm like, no, that served its purpose, right or wrong. And right or wrong is subjective at this point. It doesn't really matter. I'm here, and it served me in some way, regardless of how you want to define it. So I'm here because of it. And if in the moment you can be grateful and say, count the blessings, and know, that you wouldn't have been here otherwise. There's a lot for both of us, I believe, to be very grateful for. So yeah, it almost seems um, counter counterproductive to weigh on regrets. As much as I do consciously think about, and I know I'd love for you to finish your thought. I hope I didn't take you away from it, but um, think about living a life where I can minimize those regrets moving forward.
Yes. I think it comes down to like that wisdom thing, and not that I'm wise. I try to when I was in Peru, there was this decision that I made that I was kind of I couldn't quite tell why I was struggling with it. And my dad came up in one of the things that he used to say. I mean, he would say stuff like he said to my brother and I, he asked us, what have you learned from me? And my brother said, don't piss into the wind. you know, like so silly, but like it's kind of like true. Like, don't swim against the current. Don't piss into the wind. Like it's just dumb. Like the wind's coming this way. Why are you gonna like bathe yourself in your own urine? But we do, right? Like it's like we do things that are just clearly hurting us. And whatever, like, oh, I'm going to do this because whatever, like I've always done it this way, or my parents did it this way, or whatever. It's like, that's ego. You're attached to that. I'm going to be a rebel or whatever. So I think wisdom is knowing the results of our decisions before we make them. So that's the calculated part of like, okay, if I piss into the wind, this is going to happen, right? Like, oh, awareness. Um, but I think that other side, what came up, the other thing that he said, I learned from him was, if you didn't learn anything from me, just learn from my mistakes. So looking at the mistakes that he made, and he made a very critical mistake at the last part of his life with his whole life savings, and got into partnership with some people that were, I'm not quite sure. I kind of look back and they might have actually been nefarious. He might have actually got himself into a scam.
Mm.
And it was so he's either in a scam or he was with people that were kind of incompetent or not sophisticated in what they were trying to do. Either way, he made a bad decision and it cost him his life saving. So I was looking at doing a similar thing of starting this wellness center with someone that I really genuinely don't think I'm getting scammed by. I think of as a brother that I went down there to Peru with, and his name is Alex, and he's a dear friend and a good teacher, good man, family man. Yet he's like 35 years old, and he reminds me a lot of how I was at 35. He's a lot more mature than I was at 35. But my point is, I didn't have to make that decision. I kind of didn't, not that I didn't want to be partners with him. I didn't want to be partners with a younger version of me.
Interesting.
Like it was, his name was, we have all these similarities, dude. And with the context of the world, like, or the universe rather, like he is me. I had this really crazy moment actually where I was like, I am you. It was like the shadow of me that I don't see. It's not bad. The shadow's not dark and bad. It's just I can't see it. So it is kind of dark, but not dark energy. I'm going a little sideways, but maybe the audience will follow it. So I don't know. Does that answer the question?
No, yeah. I mean, I'm just digging in. I mean, I'm digging in. This is just you and I having a conversation. Again, hopefully it serves or triggers something, a positive response in those watching. But um, what I think about, tell me if any of this plays into your thinking. Mortality. Does any of that, your mortality, your view of your own mortality, accelerate or adjust any of the forward thinking you have for your future?
What a good question. I don't know about the mortality. I mean, I'm for instance, well, you know what? You're right. You know what I did this year, which we're finishing up on right now, man, which is not something people like to do, and it's not something people like to talk about. I did my will, my estate, set up a trust for my daughter. So to your point, yes, man, like that could happen. Like we all know, I imagine people out there that just one day either didn't wake up or got hit by this or got this stage for that. My dad went through that. Like it's the unforeseen blow that lands the hardest. That's by Seneca. Um, so yeah, man, like so I was like, I need to do this. Not need to, like this is the right thing to do. It's not fun, it's not cool, it's not exciting, it's not something we like to talk about. It's certainly not something that's an enjoyable experience, but after doing it, I'm like, man, that was the right thing to do, and being really thoughtful about who the executor of my estate was, not just saying, well, it's going to be my brother or my aunt. It's like they don't know my business that well. So who, Candace, whom I just is our operations manager and I adore and is a dear friend and a sister, and I think of her as a work wife, and we just, man, we like think alike. We can finish each other's sentences. She knows what I'm thinking. I was like, she's going to be the executor of my state. I trust her. So you got to have trust. And then it's like, if something was to happen, I'd like this business to be able to keep going, to take care of all the people in the Alex Haig group that have aligned with me, to have Candace still have a job, to help them feed their families. She understands the business. So she could take over and continue to run the business and have checks go to my ex, not wife. I was weird about to say wife. People always think, well, it was your ex-wife. I never got married. But yeah, so yeah, man, that mortality for sure. But it's also like as we get older, Eddie, right? Like I think this is why you and I do this, because we feel like we've done the whole thing of the build and the grind and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I don't want to grind anymore. I don't have to grind anymore. So, but that does that mean I want to just go lay on a beach in Tahiti and drink Mai Tais? No. There's certain things that I really love within the business, that I have here.
Yeah, I think that
Uh,
when you get to a certain point in business, and it is a very nice place to be, but when you get to a certain point and you've done the thing, and you also recalibrated what success means to you along the way, and today, if you ask yourself in the mirror the question, am I successful? It probably is a little bit different. It certainly is for me in terms of, I had these illusions of, this certain kind of dollar amount. And I guess a lot of us probably have these early on stories about, how you have to kind of define what that goal is, right? Because you're setting a goal and you're saying, well, it's got to look like this, or it's every month I'm making this, or there's this many zeros in my bank account, or whatever it might be. You know, that, at least for me, is become a lot less important. And it certainly is because there's a layer of security that sits on top of all this, right? But it allows your brain, at least for me, to free up and think about other things that define me as a person, that will live beyond me, hopefully, and will be really helpful and contribute to others. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And spending the whatever time I'm given with meaningful relationships, people that I love, and doing fun shit. Because at one day the light will go off. And again, I'm not morbid. I'm not thinking it's tomorrow or anything like that. Because like you, I enjoy taking care of myself, and because I want to be able to do all those things without being pushed in a wheelchair. So all of those things come together. But I think the economic aspect, when you get to a certain level, it allows you to, and you tap in, at least I did, into more of who I am. Because in the beginning, it's more like, I got to go, and I'm competing over here, and I'm competing over there, and I'm competing with myself, and I got to make X, and it's Friday. Why didn't I do X and Y and Z? That starts to wane, which is a nice sweet spot. So now it's just like, okay, how do I then fulfill those? Man, at the end, I want people to say, not everybody, but I want the people that I've had the privilege to spend time with to say, that guy was a solid dude. and he helped me do this, this, and this. And of course, as you said earlier, the priority, of course, is the inner circle, and that starts with usually with your kids, like with you with your daughter, and me with mine. You know, I'm happy that I'm able to kind of rest very easily at night, knowing that I've helped raise two good humans. That they, in turn, I anticipate them being contributors to our society. That's a nice, another big check mark in there. So yeah, that's kind of where I am. And I know that's one of the reasons, some of the reasons why you and I came together to do this together, is to just to share this, in the hopes that it will be a catalyst for some positive change in someone else's life, whether it's inside of real estate, because we've got a lot of great nuggets to share there, and on a technical and practical basis, but also, you know, as a couple of, 50-year-olds.
What are your thoughts on the questions that you asked me? Like, what is what does 2025 look like? Maybe a little different, or dare I use the word refined for you in 25?
Yeah, it is refined. It's simplicity. I think if I had to pick a word, it would one of them would be simplicity, um, and focus. I think those two will go kind of hand in hand. So a simpler, smaller list of things to do. So if I, get a little more specific, a simpler, smaller list of things to do that I want to do, and do them better in a more focused manner, more refined, based on my experience and, my knowledge and my skill set. And then aim that at those who it'll help best. So that's what my 2025 and beyond starts to look like. As you asked me the question today, that's what I would love to look back as we're looking at 2026 and say, yeah, yes, I improved from that point till today on those goals specifically. And now it looks it in a more practical, grounded way. It's continuing to build the consulting business, which I just enjoy. I had a wonderful um, uh, introductory meeting this past week with another entrepreneur, another business owner locally, and he has several retail locations, and he's all over the place. So from a more specific, granular level, I'm helping them uh, sort out their marketing and go from a very brick and mortar. Um, my mom and dad and my grandparents started this business, very immigrant too. So all of these things not only are really interesting to me, but I obviously key into those because I have a lot of similarities. The family's from Brazil, so a lot of the Latin traditions and belief systems, family dynamics, etc. And I'm talking to you about everything else other than the marketing piece that I'm doing, right? But that's kind of what draws me in, and that's what gets me excited. And then I can layer on top. The other stuff is more academic, right? I just happen to know it and I know how to apply it. But working with people and seeing this, helping this particular family transition from these stores to, and not completely online situation, but certainly leveraging the opportunities that exist in a world where the way we consume both things and services, etc., and creating all that content for them. So that one I'm really looking forward to, and that's a great addition to the stable of clients that we're currently helping. And so I'm in my zone. I'm enjoying that. I just do. And so again, it's not work. And to your point earlier, it's like you use retired, and I think I'm going to use that. I like that a lot. That's how I see that kind of morphing, because it's not work. As a matter of fact, one of the things I told him when I was having that meeting with him, I said, I don't need to do this. And he was a little taken back. He was a little taken back. He said, I don't need to do this. And I'm not gloating, and I'm not saying that from a pompous place. I'm just saying I'm in a zone now where I can truly give you the very best of me, knowing that it's going to work for you based on the results that I've received myself. And you're a cool dude. And at the end, the guy gave me a hug. When we were leaving, he didn't shake my hand. He gave me a hug. And to me, that was everything. That to me, it's almost like he was selling me. He earned my business, although he's the one that's going to write the check, because that was really meaningful. Like there was a connection there, and it's like, you're my guy, I'm your guy, let's do this. So that was very meaningful for me. And those are the relationships I enjoy having.
Do you kind of, it sounds like these are decisions, right? Like, do you think that that is kind of the sweet spot, where you can, and like, can somebody, like, so somebody could come to you and say, hey, I want to do video, right? Like, and within the context is because we're aligned with an EXP,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's one of the just the magical things about EXP. Like, I'm having a meeting with Carlos on Monday, my mentor and my sponsor, who's just helped me grow so much, and some of it through his mistakes, something that he's been able to be candid with me about, like, don't, like my dad, like, don't do this. Like, he had a big kind of mistake that he made, and he was like able to own it and say, I screwed up, and it cost me, and like, look, buddy, this is what I did, so don't do this with your team. Like, man, what a valuable lesson, right? um
And what a blessing to have someone like that in your corner that is in a position to share that with you. Like they're not overly embarrassed. They may be embarrassed, that's fine, but still to be able to share it with you so that it serves you, that's a great mark of a person, in my opinion.
yeah, it was just so humble, man, like, of like, and he owned it. He was like, just poor leader, Carlos's accent, poor leadership on my part. Just owned it. And it's okay. He wasn't like bad. He wasn't stupid. Like, we all make mistakes. It's just trying to learn from those, our own. And then, gosh, if we can learn them from others. And I think that's what you and I are trying to do here, of going, look, it's not easy. It's doable if you stay focused, if you stay humble, if you stay hungry over time. Like, I'll give an example. I've been doing the YouTube stuff for quite a while, right? And I got a call the other day, and it was so funny, dude. Like, because Candace is such a perfectionist, and she likes things to work and wants to please, wants to do a good job and all that. So she's been doing a lot of stuff with the YouTube, and we've had a meandering road with that into me doing things that I like within YouTube where it doesn't feel like a job. So what is the parts that I like? I love doing the data stuff. I love doing the market data stuff. So we kind of started to do that more, right? Because it doesn't feel like work to me.
Mm-hmm.
So the old Naval Ravikant, like, success is, you'll achieve success if you do what feels like play to you, but work seems like work to others. And there's definitely, I've did a lot of calling, which I didn't always like, but I felt like it was a treasure hunt always. So there's an aspect of excitement in it. But anyways, so, dude, I got this call from a guy, and he's like, I've been watching your channel, and I really love what you're doing. Huge fan. I'd like you to come over and talk to me about selling my house. So I looked up the house online, and it was just by looking at it, I'm like, this is probably like a $2 million sale, right? So went over there, and I went with Jessica on our team. I always try to create these learning environments for them. Like, she hasn't been on too many luxury, anything over $1 million in Martin County, we kind of consider luxury. So I wanted her to at least learn from that, right? So we went over there, did the whole thing, and then, going through the house, tell me about this, tell me about that. And we kind of did okay, you ready for the presentation? So I got into like the data. And he was like, wow, this is what I was looking for, because he's kind of a C type. He was a consultant, C type personality. He's a nuclear engineer. And so I did some restaurant stuff early and points of interest, which he was a big foodie. So he liked that. But then he also liked the empirical stuff that I did. So he already chose me. His wife was like, if you don't choose somebody, I'm going to find somebody online. He's like, no, I got a guy. So, I mean, he already chose me, right? So that's going to be $2 million sale. Let's say 2.5%. It's going to be roughly 50,000. And they're like, we want to buy a property. We want to make sure we have something that we want to buy, but we do not want to live in this house anymore, and you're our guy. So then Jessica's like, I don't like really working with buyers anymore. It's not that I don't like it. No, I don't. I don't like it. So I always envisioned as Jessica and I were leaving, no, Jessica was taking down, what are you looking for? What area you're looking for? So she's taking notes. So she's going to be able to handle the buy side. We're on the splits that we're on. It's going to be probably a $65,000 net to me. So all those YouTube videos, and we've got another, we do shorts and all that stuff. We use it as marketing and that. But um, I guess my point in all this, dude, is that I was doing what I like to do. I created an opportunity where somebody's like, "You're my guy," and I was like, "You're the kind of guy I'm looking for. You're the people that I'm looking for that understand data, that are looking to sell, and are reasonable about the sale price of your home because they bought it in 22, so at the height. So, I was able to look at the data. He's like, maybe I lost money. I'm like, I don't think you lost money. I don't think you're going to make money. He's like, I'm okay with that. I was like, well, you're the perfect like avatar of who to work with, right? Like you want to sell the house. You're willing to sell it for what it's worth. And then we're going to be able to service you on the buy side. So I don't know where I was going with all of that other than, it took some time to do those 100-something videos. And there's the return. It just so, we're talking 2.5, 3 years of YouTube videos to get to that person. And that's a good return. Maybe all that time people say, well, your time wasn't worth it. It's like, well, a lot of it, I didn't feel like I was working. Some of it I did. And then I eliminated that and did stuff that I liked. And we found the person. So quick story on that. And that's what you can help people do. So that's the cool thing with EXP is that somebody can come into, you be their sponsor and they're like, I really want to do video. Now I can help them too because you and I are aligned. So, hey, I can help you here. Eddie can help you here. You don't have to pay us. What a beautiful thing. And you get some stock and all that. I made a really great, decision with some stock that I had with EXP that really was a great trade. I'm up 600% on that trade from a good decision, from a lot of research that I'd done, but didn't feel like research because I enjoy learning about this stuff. So this is a side. I think people out there aligning with the right people, a la the Carlos for me, you coming in, hey, we want to do stuff because we used to talk about this stuff. I'm like, man, why aren't we hitting record? That's why I think we have some gold here that could help people. Now we have a great organization that allows us to give that information without directly charging people. So I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I love everything you've said. What you've fallen into is one of the topics of conversation that I have with consulting clients is the choosing of a format. So when we're creating content, we've identified over about 160 currently. I think that's our list right now of different formats. And I'll dive into that, what I mean by formats in a second. And we've used roughly about practically in a practical sense with clients about half of those, maybe a little bit less than half, maybe somewhere in the 60s or 70s that we've used. And what I mean by format is the style of video that is being created. So what we do is we have the analytics and we study as a team, what are the formats that are working? What is the way content is presented that is resonating with people now? So everything from the very analytical, data-minded person like you've presented to man on the street, to interviews with people, to comparison videos. Why use this versus this? Why buy in Port St. Lucie versus Stewart? Those three are three quick examples of what format is. And so we've determined and discovered these different types of formats that are very effective to reach your target audience. And so you hit on one accidentally. Well, I mean, accidentally, only because you didn't go the way that, typically we go by it. But you figured out, and this is the goal, is to figure out what you really enjoy and you're very good at presenting in a format that is well received by your target audience. And that's exactly what you've done. And so, yes, your analytical presentation that you enjoy isn't going to hit with every single viewer. It's like some people, their eyes just kind of glaze over and they just tune out. It's like, no, I don't want to know about numbers. I want fancy pictures of beautiful pool homes. And one is not better than the other. It's just the way something is presented. But what I love about your story and is what it leads to is total agreement with who you are and the fact that Alex is my guy. Like, you didn't go in there and sell anything. I'm going to gather that there wasn't much arm twisting that you needed to do. You were welcome into their home, and then you're like, yeah, where do I sign? Oh, and by the way, I need to buy something too. So did you need to have a lot of patience in your journey of video content creation? Yeah. Is everyone willing to do that, make the investment of time, frustration, money, capital, etc.? No. After 17 videos, will they drop off? Yes. You kept on the course, and your business analytics tell you that it was money well spent, right?
100%, man.
Yeah, that's it. And so that's the kind of stuff we enjoy. So, and for those that are, interested in those kinds of video concepts, yeah, like you said, Alex, the nice thing about us doing this and yes, being, in EXP is that if you do reach out to us and we end up working together, and you'll have access to all that, and you'll have access to Alex and to me and to these containers of knowledge of here that have made so many mistakes, but also have learned a lot of things. Yeah, and that's what you and I are really looking forward to sharing. So, what else do you have for 2025? What else do you think about in terms of your goals to accomplish in the coming year? And let's talk about not even just, yeah, like let's. I don't think we've touched on this, but more in a practical sense in the business, maybe with the team or the growth of the team or the morphing of the team in some way, or adding different talent that isn't necessarily directly sales driven, or solutions or products that you'd love to bring in to optimize the way you guys are working.
Good question. So I have, sometimes I lose a little bit of track, but so it's the if we look at, I still go back to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I kind of in the construct of business, right? Try to go, okay, there's the employee, there's the sole proprietor, there's the business owner, and then invest. And you want to get into, and you can be an employee and invest. So you don't have to work your way through, sole proprietor and that. But if you're in the real estate thing, you might be an employee of your own business for a while until you can get enough capital to get an employee to take care of the things that you aren't good at and or don't want to do, right? Usually the things that we're not good at, we don't want to do. But that's a whole other thing maybe I want to talk about. But I want to, Carlos, actually, we're having a meeting next week. He's like, how many people do you want to add to your team? And I used to actually, Eddie, have this big aspiration, man, of like, I want 20, 25 agents and doing all this. And what I've learned is, dude, it's like adding 20 just to add 20 will create more friction and more, not the culture that I really enjoy, which are people hungry, humble, coachable. The people that want to learn and grow. So it's like, I'm not attached to 20. It's more like, I like to add 3 to 5. We actually just recently brought one on, a lovely young woman who really fits the culture. And the culture is when we meet on Fridays, and if you join, even don't have to join our team, but you can join our organization and you can access these Friday meetings. And like last week, I really loved Stoic wisdom, right? So I'll do a presentation every Friday. Last Friday was on Stoic wisdom. And we have maybe every 3 to 5 meetings, people cry. And they cry because something comes up for them within the presentation. And so people don't remember so much of what you say, they remember how you feel. And it's if we evoke emotion, what that does is it brings us all together more. And we feel comfortable. I sometimes cry, man. And usually my cries are around gratitude of like, man, I learned something, or I felt that much closer to somebody. and it opens up that door to just becoming closer as a group. So that's what my goal is finding the right people, right? The ones that want to do role play aren't like, "Oh, I don't want to do role play." It's like they want to get better. They want to grow. And now we're doing our Friday meetings, celebrity death match, we call it. We're thinking about renaming it, but we have fun with it. I do impersonations. So I get out there I literally have my old high school wrestling singlet on. I got a Nacho Libre mask and I do accents of characters, but it's a role play. And so it's kind of funny. It's a little absurd, but there's lessons within it. So we get a little bit loose with it. We have some fun with it. Those are the kind of people we want, right? That enjoy having some fun and learning and growing. So my goal for this year is add another 3 to 5, get that to where they're doing a minimum of 2 deals a month. Minimum. We have agents that are doing 3 to 5 a month. Agents that are making over $150,000 this year on the team. But I think if I can get, or rather, when we have somebody that's doing at least 2 deals a month, at our average price point, they're going to be making 80 to 100,000, even with the splits that we have. So for the team, that's one thing. I would love to continue to grow our organization, which is one of the things that you and I are working on because it's a great source of another revenue stream. Ravi Kiyosaki talks about multiple revenue streams. So that check that I get each month from RevShare is great. I want to grow the flip business because what I've learned is like it's a really good business. And I kind of stumbled into it this year. We did 3 of them and like I made over $150,000 with these flip businesses. And then those have open houses that the agents can go and, get business from the open houses. And then also I want to create more of a predictable opportunity stream for, wholesale, great. If we flip it, great. But we also have a retail that an agent can, you don't want to wholesale it. You don't want to flip it. You really are more of a candidate for a resale or a residential retail sale. So it's kind of paying attention to that. And we're starting to grow that. So if somebody's out there thinking about flips, I've learned a lot. I'd love to help you out. No charge to help you out with that. And then lastly, man, it's really paying attention to, so this crypto thing that's going on, we're in now what's called the bull run, and we could talk about cycles and all that kind of stuff. The last cycle, I wasn't paying attention quite as much as I could have. So it went, really up. And then I wasn't paying attention. So when it started to dive, I was out a little further on the risk curve with some of these altcoins and stuff, and Solana was in there, which ended up being a really good chain. But I didn't pay attention, so I moved everything into Bitcoin, which was good. So I didn't get totally crushed by the altcoins. A lot of them that went to zero or very, very low, all-time low type stuff. And I didn't pay attention. So that's one of the things I've got these investments and I really need to pay attention. So continue to get my icons. I just had another $4,000 something vest from icons that I've got.
For those that don't know what that is, could you dive in a little bit into that?
Yeah, so an icon is just such a beautiful thing. Anybody that's doing, it's basically you cap. So to cap would be down here doing about 2.8 million in volume. So that would cap, and then you bet at 100%, 80-20 split. 20 goes to EXP. Once you pay 20%, that reaches that 16,000, you've capped. And then once you sell another 20 sides, now as a team leader, if you're on a split with somebody, it goes down to the percentage of the deal. So, right. So if I got 60% of a deal, that would be 60% of a transaction. You cap, you do 20 deals, and that could be maybe, you have a team and the splits that you have get you the percentages that you need to get to the 20 deals. You get your $16,000 back in stock. So it's now part of that is vested. So you could go and trade that right away. And then part of it is unvested. And there's tiers of like 2 to 3 years of when those actually vest. So kind of like bonds, if anybody knows about bonds, you buy bonds, and I wouldn't suggest it. This is not financial advice. You invest in bonds so that later in life, okay, I get this bond yields, it was a 3 year, a 5 year, or 10 year, but you ladder them so that when you reach 50, 60, every year, those bonds are vesting, right? So I look at the EXP stock kind of like that. As those bonds vest, I get the money I can now trade. It goes right into my E-Trade account. And now I've been moving into Tesla. We're talking about our flying
Mm-hmm.
cars. I believe in Tesla. I own a Tesla. I believe in Tesla. I believe in what he's doing as a company. Also, I do have some, I like what he did with the election and that. Got a little political, which he felt like he had to. But yeah, now I'm able to start moving that into Tesla. And, I did a great trade with the MicroStrategy, which is up 600%. So the stock that I had, I looked at it kind of like a George Soros trade, not comparing myself to George Soros, but I took his lesson. He's like, when you have conviction in something, go in hard. There was a lot of talk about there about diversity. And look, this is a different conversation around investing, but I was like, I see what I believe to be a really good trade here. And I had, 6 digits in EXP stock that was just sitting there. It was sitting there. I was like, great. There's my previous thinking was, okay, in 2, 3, 5, 10 years, that will be my
Right.
part of my retirement. I was like, man, I see this one company that I think, it was MicroStrategy. It was Michael Saylor's company. And I had watched it. I saw what he was doing. And I was like, man, I think this has such a bigger upside than EXP. And not that I think EXP stock is garbage, but, it was 6 digits worth of stock. And I went all in. And it was 600, I'm up 600% from that. Paying attention, right? Making a bold move from a lesson that I learned from a guy like Soros. Not that I like his political alignments, but I can certainly learn something from him. And so those are kind of in a nutshell. It's just taking care of the team, taking care of my daughter, business-wise, the flip, continue to grow the downline, and just paying attention. And then also the health-wise, stay healthy, stay clear, so that I can continue to create an environment for these people to grow and for my financial future to grow.
Yeah, so
That's
I
it.
see now where you say the paying attention part for 2025, just kind of paying a little more attention to everything, all those details, and you basically rattled off your priorities. And for me, when I give a response like that, like you just did, where whatever comes to mind, those first 3, 4, 5 things, I pay attention more to that as opposed to before. I think I would probably just say it because it's what came to mind. But I'm honoring the fact that it came to mind first, and I'm actually paying attention to that. And if I said it, or if I've echoed it several times, especially if I've echoed it several times, just kind of off the cuff when somebody asks me, I actually started to write it down, not because I think I'm going to forget, but to remind myself that those really are, that's what's rooting around in your head, Eddie, and likely in the middle of the night too, when you're not consciously thinking about it. Your brain's going to work on that stuff. So pay attention to that and let that be your guiding light until something else, until you start to parrot something else that likely maybe needs your attention because you keep thinking about it or you keep mentioning it. So yeah, that's one of the practical things that I'm starting to do as well.
You mentioned a couple things there. What are you thinking about for 2025?
Definitely still my girls, and they're moving into their young adulthood, and there's big decisions that are coming up. My youngest Angelina will be graduating from the University of Florida next year, and so that came as a blink of an eye. She was accepted into the master's program, which bravely enough she turned it down. She yeah yeah so not for anything that is because she's not afraid of the hard work. She's really a good student. And on the flip side, just a little bit of a tangent here. I was watching a really kind of insightful YouTube interview yesterday, and they're talking. It was a good reminder of how our educational system is set up and what it's setting up our kids to do. And so I've got a little bit, not to go too deep into that, but I've got a little bit of an outline that really resonated with me in that conversation that I'd like to go over with her, just to kind of peel away some of this institutional style of educating our kids to uncover her true self and uncover her best, or help her uncover or see the best of her, so it doesn't get lost in, I'm getting a job, I need to do X, Y, and Z because everyone else said I need to do X, Y, and Z. Although she's more of a lone wolf. She's more like me. So I don't think it'll be too hard of a peel back, but I want her just to drop back in. Hey, you've been in this institutional educational system for all these years, and you're a great student. So you fit the mold because you did all the things and you reached all the heights. Congratulations. But even from day one, when she went off to school, I told her, I said, remember, honey, this is for you to, this is a great opportunity for you to meet more people, shake the right hands, ask a lot of questions, make mistakes, get into conversations, raise your hand a lot, and get into rooms of people that give a damn. And so that's what not that I sent her off to school, but in my mind, that's how I think of it, right? That's what I want to see you to do. And I'm giving you all this advice based on my experience. And so try to wrap your some of your experience in college in that. And that's exactly what she's done, because the academic stuff has been relatively easy for her to do and do very well. So it's like, okay, you can check that box off, and you're soon not going to be a student in that format anymore. You're going to be a student of life, and you're going to need to be prepared to do all the things that hopefully you were doing these 4 years, which is asking the questions, making mistakes, because that's what you want to do. That's what you want to learn from. And that was something that was echoed in this video. Towards the end of the video, it got a little long-winded and kind of a little bit off track, but I would say the first half was pretty good. As a matter of fact, if I'll attach the link to the bottom so you can have a little more context to it, for anybody watching that cares to maybe dive into it. But that's kind of my goal in these the next year or so, is to help guide them. And my older daughter in San Diego, she's more of a practical saver, a practical spender. She's more the long haul, the long horizon kind of, thinker, but planner, and very, regimented in her ways. So there's a lot of lovely elegance in the way she goes about things as well. And Angelina, the one I spoke about earlier, she's more me. She's more entrepreneurial. She's more take shots at it, see what happens, lick your wounds and try again. And so that is really where my main focus is right now, is to continue to raise two young ladies in what still sometimes is a male-dominated world. Although I will say that what I've uncovered is that, women really are taking a huge bite out of the corporate world, professional world, entrepreneurial life. So I'm there to champion it and help support them in that direction. So that to me is going to be fun. It's going to be not only something I want to do from my heart, but it's something I'm going to enjoy wanting to do and be a spectator at as well. And then separate from that is to continue to grow the business, the consulting side of the business, which is what I enjoy. My goal is to make a concerted effort to get on more speaking opportunities, so I can have a bigger stage, a bigger platform, not even stage, not the physical stage, but the platform. So I'm looking into expanding those opportunities just to make a bigger reach, and pull myself away from some of the more technical, practical things that need to happen. Although I enjoy those things, but it's like anything else, right? It's the same reason why in real estate, one of our first hires is an assistant, right? Because you don't necessarily want to be the one stuck putting the lockbox on and taking the photos. No, you invest in a really good photographer, and you have an assistant that puts the lockbox on and fields the calls, et cetera, et cetera. So it's very much in that vein that the growth will continue to happen inside the business. And so finding myself in a circle of like-minded people, I think will also will come from those speaking opportunities and more of a networking aspect. I've, again, to what I alluded earlier, I've been kind of a more of a lone wolf in that aspect, and so I want to be able to expand that and grow that and and impact more people. So that's really kind of what I've positioned myself in 2024 to do in 2025.
That's beautiful, man. Do you, so that feels like the foundation. Do you have any like kind of like pet project dream kind of stuff?
Pet project dream, but probably falls more back into spending more time with Maria, with my wife, and going and traveling more. I think that's probably what I dream about a little bit more, and seeing where we're going to put down some more roots on this globe, finding some properties in different places. I think that's basically, the first stuff that I mentioned is more my day to day, and I think dream projects would be that, and also along with that is finding opportunities to help my family in Mexico, help them. That's really what I'd love to see, because as much as a big part of the family in Mexico is well educated, successful on their own, doing all the right things, there's still, I see that gap where there could be opportunity for me to help if they're willing and open to listening. Although I think I mentioned to you before, we have a really good, thriving conversation on WhatsApp. So we have a really good group where we're always staying in touch and helping each other. So I think that would probably be, more of a passion project from the heart, to do more with them and leverage, our good fortune and help them create things within reason. Because it could also get a little tricky when you're dealing with family. But that's just practical. But I do hope to find the right opportunities to be able to help them in that direction as well.
I love it. I think we've kind of both established like what our foundational things are. We think we're very much in alignment on paying attention to what's important to us. Like we're getting clear on what's important to us, and how we're going to approach those decisions around the things that are and people that are important to us. Um, one of the things that, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, I think diversity is important in investing in life. Like that's what travel's all about. And you and I are very much about that. I want to do more traveling. And now I'm down to like, I want to do a trip a month, and it might not be a week, but like, for instance, I'm going to Colombia, leaving Christmas night. I'm going to spend Christmas Day with my daughter and leaving Christmas night, which by the way, is the best day of the year to fly. If you've never flown on Christmas Day, it is
Yeah, it's
the
crickets.
bomb.
Yeah.
Oh, it's awesome. So, but I want to, I think, you and I both have an affinity for disruption. And, I guess the biggest buzzword in that whole space, disruption, as far as business is concerned, is the crypto world. And now we have, the new SEC chairman coming in who's very pro crypto. Obviously, the Trump administration is incredibly pro crypto. So I think there's, I see this as kind of like the renaissance of business, of transactions, of daily, interaction with a new medium. And so I do see crypto as that. And so, we have an episode I think coming up with a company called Proppy, and also some thinking Proppy, which is actually on the Ethereum chain, but Solana as well. Solana has a transaction mechanism called Blinks. I don't know if you heard about it,
I have.
but basically, yeah. So what it does is, and I want to learn more about it, because where I think Solana is going, I'm kind of projecting that, made my bets, calculated bet, on a chain that is actually being used, which a lot of people don't understand in crypto. They're just seeing number go up. And an example would be XRP, which is just, it's like acting as a meme coin, meaning it's more of a community thing. It's like everybody likes it, but nobody's using it. It's not actually being used. So going a little further into this and that diversity thing, I have a little bit of this vision around travel, finding the spot, kind of similar to you, of like setting roots somewhere else, not leaving Florida, but kind of finding another spot. And I kind of have a projection of where I think Solana is going to go. And rather than moving that Solana or a portion of that Solana into cash, which may or may not be a taxable thing, because now the Trump administration is talking about no tax, which would be
That would be wild.
incredible, be wild, dude. Like it would blow things up. But that another side. Let's say to not necessarily move it into cash, which would be a taxable event, but to actually use the Solana to purchase property. And so I'm kind of like, this is a little bit of that journey of kind of marrying this world of real estate with investing, with travel, with roots in another place, and how to, diversify a little bit. Cause that's again, the lesson I learned from the last cycle was like, yeah, ride it up, but figure out roughly where the top is and then take some chips off the table. Those, Raul Paul talking about lifestyle chips. Now it's not, I want to go and fly on a private jet and spend $100,000 on that as a lifestyle chip. It's like, where can I use that big upside to purchase some real estate in another country? So stay tuned. I think our journey, we're going to continue to share with people, how these things work, how we're navigating it, and maybe, have some kind of playbook for people to do. I mean, right now we've got right in front of us with EXP. Hey, if you're doing 30 deals a year, it's fiscally irresponsible. Now, you may love your broker and you may love your brand, and that's cool. Like, that's cool. And one of the things I also learned down there in Peru is like, have compassion for people. Don't go, wow, why would they do that? That's so dumb. But I'm like, they love the broker. They love this. That's okay. That is okay. However, if you want to make a good business decision, in my opinion, to own the company, so it's like, I still have this thing here right now. It's not like EXP is dead and you missed the boat. It's like, even if you didn't recruit somebody, you're going to get stock. So in 3 to 5 to however many years where I'm at now, I'm speaking to you out there, you could have, 50, 100, whatever, $1,000 worth of the stock. You don't take my word for what you should invest in, but at least you have something that you could maybe move into something else that you could have a bigger upside into. So just so much cool stuff. I'm so grateful for the decisions. I patted myself on the back actually while I was in Peru of like, good job, buddy. Like,
That's great.
good job, text Alex. Yeah, like and we talked about, yeah, like good job, man. Like you focused and you made a couple good decisions, and then that set you up for another decision to have another upside fiscally, which helps my daughter, which helps the team, which helps the future me. So I'm just mad grateful, man. Like, and also just want to continue to stay humble, not cocky, not, confidence is one thing, but confidence untempered with humility ends up as arrogance. And we know some people out
Yeah,
there.
there's a fine line. I don't know how fine it is. It may not be that fine, but there's a clear line where you could, there's that a moment of gratitude and appreciation and acknowledgement for what is true, what does exist. That doesn't have to lean into arrogance, and I guess depending on who's receiving that information or that viewpoint will interpret it the way they want to. But that's on them. I mean, this is. If you've consumed a few of our videos by now, hopefully that you understand that kind of where we come from, and that Alex and I are really very aligned. And a lot of times we're letting each other speak because we're internally kind of nodding our heads with what the other person is saying. Because that's kind of what we're thinking too. And although my list isn't very long in terms of what I want to do, I think that's really intentional because again, I'm protective of the space, my mind space, and to use one of your last points here was you said to stay open to new opportunities. And you're right. There's a space reserved for that as well as I move forward in 2025 to see what comes of it. And again, you kind of wrap that around, technology, cryptocurrency, the new presidency, all of these things that might and will likely present new opportunities that I think, because of the decisions we've made before today, are going to position us to make a decision in that direction. And that's exciting. That little bit of an unknown to me is very exciting, because, I know a few things, you know a few things, and you'll see it when that shiny object comes up and be like, let me spend some time understanding it. And then when I do, I'm going to pull the trigger on that and go for it. And that's exciting to me. And I know you're looking for similar opportunities.
Yeah. I want to kind of finish on this, and I think we got to stop saying his name because we might get whacked by the algorithm. But just as an example, the T guy, you may not like him, and that's fine. And frankly, I'm not so much a fan of his personality. It's more policy, and this is happening. Like, it is what it is, and if you stay in a place of hate and, I will say, an arrogance around, like, I am right, you might miss something that is probably equivalent, if not bigger, because the adoption of crypto is actually twice the adoption of the internet. Think about that. And the internet is probably the most disruptive technology, or whatever it's so much bigger even than technology. It's like this is an opportunity. And if you stay in disdain and hate and, emotion around how you feel about the person, you can miss the opportunity. And so just, I did want to kind of maybe finish with that.
No, I love that you're finishing with that, because that leads perfectly into what our next episode is going to be. So again, if you're enjoying this kind of content from a couple of guys who have some experience in, behind them, and a lot to look forward to, these are the kind of conversations we're going to continue to dig deeper into. And next episode will be one that you're not going to want to miss, because it ties a lot of these things in terms of the direction of technology and what's coming, and how you can certainly leverage it to your benefit. So, brother, as always, thank you for this conversation, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks, brother. See you on the next one.